Hi, welcome to Intuitive Encounters Conversations. I'm Jamie Roth, Spiritual Wellness Facilitator, and today I want to discuss when things are taken from us, stolen from us, or we perceive that they have been taken from us, meaning they no longer exist within us. So first I'm going to start off by sharing a story. A couple of years ago, I did a healing session with another healer, and it was an inner child type of session. And I was met with a younger version of me, I would say ages 12 and younger, much younger. So I was met with this little girl version of myself. And what came forward was this little girl who was so sweet. She had this sweetness to her. And I recalled that sweetness about myself. I recalled being that little girl that was so sweet. And in this kind of type of sort of hypnosis, meditative type of state that I was in to greet her, I could see her so clearly. And I don't just mean in the physical sense, although I could visualize her, but I could see her spirit, and I could see, and more importantly, I could feel that sweetness. And there was this deep well of sadness that had been stolen from me, that had been taken from me. And I've really sat with that many times over the past couple of years, but mainly because after that session, it caused me to have a grieving period, which is a wonderful thing to do in healing. You should always spend time grieving losses. And we are always in perpetual loss, quite frankly. Loss of identity, loss of things, loss of people, loss of who we thought we were. I mean, we are in a constant state of loss, or you could consider it as death, rebirth. And so there is grieving that's natural and should be done with care and intention. But I digress. So I had a little bit of a grieving period on that. But shortly after that, it was like Spirit had something more to say about it. And all of a sudden, I started getting told how sweet I was on a fairly consistent basis. Like friends, clients, people in my life would just say, "Oh, you're so sweet," or "That was so sweet of you." But when that was said to me, I noticed that I recoiled because I no longer identified as sweet. I identify as fierce, as extremely confident, as take no shit. Because sweet, when I see that little girl, felt innocent and vulnerable and unsafe. And so I created a personality, some personality traits that were about safety and about being strong and about being there. Nobody could take things from me. They can overpower me. And so as sweetness started showing up in my life, people started verbalizing it to me the past couple of years, I always get really taken aback because I didn't know what to make of that, because I no longer view myself as sweet. I don't. If anything, I'll say I think I'm skeptical a lot. I think I'm jaded. I also know that I'm very vibrant and bright. I'm a lot of things. I'm a very complex person. I never identify as only one thing, because I know as humans we're intricate and complex. And so I know you can be more than one thing at once. It's just I didn't identify as sweet. I didn't understand what that meant. And then recently I had another healing session with a different healer, and it came up again. And she said, "You're very sweet." And I said, "You know what? I'm actually really uncomfortable with that. I don't know what to make of that." And she was like, "What do you mean?" And so I explained kind of what I'd been through with the sweet thing, and I had already grieved that, and I understood that was not a part of me. And she said, "I think you might be misunderstanding what sweetness is." So I Googled the definition. I looked it up. I was like, "What is the definition?" Because when I think of sweet, I almost even think sort of fake, sort of insincere, like they're so sweet, or again, I think of vulnerable or maybe even unsafe. And so I actually kind of recoil when people say that I'm sweet, because it triggers that unsafe feeling in myself. And so I Googled it, and I wish I had it right now, but I'm recording this on my phone. But the definition is basically someone who is kind and empathetic and caring of others, someone who feels warm, and people feel very comfortable in their presence. Essentially, it described me. It described what I do. It describes why people come to me as a spiritual wellness facilitator, as a healer. And I had this epiphany of, oh my gosh, I am sweet. I've actually continued to be sweet all my life, but I had covered that sweetness up. I have a lot of emotion rising right now. And I had created a protective barrier around sweet, because sweet didn't feel safe. And one of the things that I have learned as a spiritual wellness facilitator, as an intuitive healer, is that oftentimes we create personas and personalities around ourselves, or what we perceive to be personality traits, that are really protective barriers, and they're really a way to keep us safe. Some really, really common ones with people are hyper independence. So if you grew up in spaces where you couldn't trust people, they didn't follow through with what they said, they didn't show up when they needed to. I mean, this could be everything from like you actually got left at school, like forgotten about by your parents, guardians, whoever, to people made constant promises and didn't have follow through. It can be growing up in chaotic environments. A lot of times people will become hyper independent, feeling like and realizing I can only depend on myself, so I'm going to get it done. I'm going to be a get it done person. I'm not going to worry about other people. So hyper independence shows up as I don't need you, I got this. So you always reject help. So anytime someone says let me help you out, you're like no, I got this, because there's no trust of someone else getting things done and doing it the right way. Control is another type of personality trait that a lot of times people create out of a need to feel safe. So I can do that myself. I can realize that I go into micromanage mode, especially like in my home with my husband and my sons, when my nervous system gets dysregulated and I'm feeling unsafe from whatever the trigger may be. So all of a sudden I'll go home and I'm like, why isn't this right here? And this is supposed to be right here, and that's supposed to be right there, and like micromanaging and just getting snippy. So I've learned that when I go into control mode, it's that my nervous system is saying, alert, you are feeling unsafe. And I can just control everything. If I can just have it in the exact right places, in the exact right way, the schedule exactly as it need to be, if I can just be super efficient, then everything will be okay. I have controlled all potential outcomes and I will be okay. Hypervigilance is another one. A lot of people pride themselves on like, I have such awareness. I can enter a room. I know where all the exits are. I can read people's body, facial expressions and their body language like nobody's business. Again, I'm very good at this. And while you might think that's a personality trait, it's actually a learned behavior that's a protection mode. So, because if you can just, have awareness all the time, then you will be safe. Nobody will be able to come at you and shock you, surprise you, get you, overtake you, because you have awareness at all times. There's nothing wrong with any of these traits, these ways that you've learned to be, these ways that I've learned to be. I want to make that really clear. And also, they're exhausting. And also, they're armor. And for me in my healing journey with sweetness, I still have some recoil reaction. I posted an Instagram video about this, and there's little images of me throughout my life, little baby images of me, little images of me, and I talk about this very thing about sweetness. And I even have, like, my husband saw it and he messaged me. He said, I love your sweetness video and you can be very sweet. And I instantly have this reaction of like, no, I'm not. I'm strong. I'm tough. And, it's a challenging thing to work through, to not feel completely vulnerable and unsafe when you're trying to identify with pieces that you feel were gone or lost or stolen. So I wanted to make this video because, one, I wanted to say that sometimes what I've come to realize is they aren't gone necessarily, but you've locked them behind a door, behind a protective measure or many, but it's still at your core, it's still who you are. Like, that is obviously a foundation of who I am. Being warm, being caring about other people, being sensitive to other people's needs, being a helper, that is absolutely the core of who I am. And if that's the definition of sweet, then that is who I am. Kindness is at the core of my foundation. And so I'm realizing it was never stolen from me. Now, I do think sometimes things can be taken from us for good. For example, innocence. When you are sexually molested, or you have seen a tragedy that you should have never seen, with your eyes, experienced, you shouldn't see abuse happening. There's things that can steal innocence. And, we could probably even flip that around and reframe it like, well, it can't take all of your innocence, or maybe you can reclaim some innocence. So again, hard and fast rules, not my jam. But I definitely think that most of the time, what we've done is we've created what we consider to be our personality that are really protective measures. And so the healing work is about peeling back some of that armor. So, on that note, I'll also share that I did some healing work a few years ago, and it was talking about masking and how we mask up. We change our masks based on where we're at, who we're in front of. You know, you have a mask you put on to be your work person, you know, yourself at work. Maybe you have something with your friends, family. You know, it's just to sort of meet people where they're at, or maybe you don't feel safe in certain situations, so you just do the very polite thing, the superficial thing. Those are kinds of masks we can have. And in that journey, I clarified for the people I was working with, the healers, that I didn't mask up very often. Being very genuinely authentic is very important to me, and it's something I do pretty much across the board. And I said, so I don't have these different masks. I don't change out. What you see is what you get with me, and pretty much anyone that knows me will attest to that. But what I did discover was that I had a full body armor. I had a full body protection armor that looked like hyper independence, need to control to feel safe, hypervigilance. So I'm speaking from experience with these things. And in my work in finding sweetness, it's been suggested to me, and I've been coming to my own on that I've already done a lot of that. It's called de-armoring. That's a journey you can take on healing, where you de-armor. You peel those back, you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you allow yourself to get hurt sometimes and to be okay in that discomfort of getting hurt. So instead of being hyper independent, you start saying yes to help. And if people still fall through with that, they say they're going to bring something to your house for the kitchen, but then they didn't. Instead of being like, oh my gosh, now everything's not perfect, they didn't bring it, see, I knew they wouldn't do it, you just say, okay, it's not that big of a deal, that salad's not here or whatever, like, we're all good. You know, and but sitting in that discomfort and retraining your nervous system and your brain neurons to be like, you know what, I'm still safe, I'm actually okay. um, I've done a lot of that de-armoring, but I have discovered that there's a little bit more, and that I can still have an armor, but maybe it can be a softer armor. So someone suggested to me, and I loved the suggestion, that I have an armor of roses. So what do roses come with? They come with thorns, right? Because beauty does need to be protected. Unfortunately, people are thieves. They are stealers of our joy. They are energy vampires. Those things are very real and valid. They are harmful. They do want to hurt you sometimes. Um, and so beauty does need to be protected. Softness and vulnerability. I'm not saying you should expose yourself and just be like, oh, well, here we go. You can still have protection. And so roses have thorns, right? So you can't just go grab a rose and take it for yourself. This is beautiful, and sniff it to your nose. You can't just take. You have to be gentle. You have to ask permission of the plant. You have to clip it in certain spots and hold it gently in certain spots. You can't just go grab up a whole bunch for yourself and be selfish with it. Nobody can do that. So I'm going to be working with a different type of armor, a different type of protection that's softer, that's beautiful, that's fragrant, as I continue to identify with my sweetness, and to allow myself, when someone says you're sweet, to just say thank you, and to feel that, and to call those little girl versions up of me and see them and feel them so wholly and realize they're still me, I'm still them. Part of this work is recognizing when you have actually managed to create a world of safety that you've always desired. So often we get caught in this armor that we've created, that we don't see through it. We don't see that we are actually safe now, and we are okay, and we can try on vulnerability more often because the people around us are loving. So for example, I have a very loving husband and loving relationship. I have beautiful children, loving children with a very close relationship. We're a very close-knit family, and our home space is very safe, it's very peaceful, it's very stable. So I don't have to carry that armor into my home, because those people are not going to try to hurt me. That doesn't mean hurt doesn't happen sometimes. It doesn't mean disagreements don't happen. It doesn't mean my husband and I don't sometimes have challenging times in our marriage. But when you know that the foundation is love and safety, you know that you can be vulnerable to work through it. I often have clients where I have to point that out to them. Let's take a step back. Let's de-armor a little bit. Let's take at least the head part off of the armor, right? I always think of like knights, with like the full body, like steel armor or whatever it was made of. Let's take off at least the helmet, okay? You can stay armored up around your heart, that protective space of receiving love and giving love. But let's take off the armor so you can see more of a 360-degree view instead of just through these little slats, right? And let's recognize in your life how much safety you've created. Look at this home that you have created, actual physical home that has all your needs met in it. Whether it's big or small is not important unless it's important to you. It's just that you have created a sanctuary. And look at these partners you've called into your life, or friends. Look at the community, look at the job you created, look at the financial stability. And you know what? It's almost always shocking to my clients to actually stop for a minute and go, oh yeah, I am actually safe now. I am okay. And to start to operate through your world through the lens of I am safe, I am okay. And so I also wanted to make this video because I just wanted to bring this to your attention, that you might have these pieces or these parts that you think are gone, that were stolen, that were robbed of you, that are just lost. And I would encourage you to try to greet those pieces through meditation, perhaps a session with me. Let's greet some of those pieces and call them forward and allow them to show themselves again and let you know I was never gone. You just had me hidden, you had me protected, you just had me locked away, but I've always been you. You've always been me. I'm the core, I'm your spirit. So I hope that this gives you something to think about. I know it's the holiday season right now, and so that's a busy time, but it's also often a very triggering time. If you have experienced loss of any sorts around this time, or are experiencing loss, or there's a loneliness and things like that, I just want you to know that I feel you and I see you and I love you. And reach out. Let's have a session, whether it's an energy session. Virtual is just as impactful as in person, or come in person. I'm located in West Lafayette, Indiana. But you also can just spend time breathing that connected breath and putting your hands on your heart. And you can look at old pictures of yourself. I like to do that. I like to go through my picture albums and look at that sweet little girl, that sweet little baby girl. If you'd like to see some pictures of me, you can check me out at IntuitiveEncounters on Instagram, where I posted about that. And I just love her through those pictures. It just, like, she's so sweet. She's so adorable. The very first picture I posted in that reel is my very favorite of myself. She's just adorable. I was just adorable, and I'm still adorable, and I'm still kind, and I'm still sweet and compassionate. And I'm gonna use this next year, so this is gonna date this video, which is fine. It's the end of 2025. Phew, we made it, I think. But I'm gonna intentionally use 2026 as a time to lean into my sweetness. And when someone tells me I'm sweet, I'm just gonna embrace it. I'm gonna take it and just hold it. And I'm gonna allow that little girl to grow up and up and up and up to get to this 48-year-old version of me. And I'm just gonna be like, I am sweet. And thank you for noticing. Thank you for saying so. I hope that through this video, it's elicited something in you, some lost piece, some hidden piece that you recognize is still there. It's always been there. It's always been who you are. It's always who you will be. And that you can safely love that person, that piece of you, and bring it forward and allow yourself to guide your life through that beautiful, wonderful, kind, compassionate, sweet, sensitive, whatever piece it is. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and blessed be. You can find me at intuitiveencounters.com.